Today I'm here to talk about discernment, and I'm particularly feeling called today to talk about how we use discernment to respond to the voices that come inside of us, the voices, the feelings, the impulses that come from inside of our bodies. How can we um, discern how to respond to those? So, to get started today, first of all, I want to show you this. This is a journal with a cute dog that my daughter gave me for Christmas this year. It was in my stocking. I like it very much. So I'll be using this to to draw out some diagrams that'll help us make sense of some stuff today. So let's get this diagram started. Let's see if I can hold my phone and draw at the same time. So as we look at this here, right? So if we have like an influence that comes our way, when the influence comes, the first, according to the 10 principles of the discernment season. Like essentially in this season, the principles can be drawn as a flow chart in a way that's kind of unique. So the influence comes, and then when the influence comes, the first thing we want to do is assess the influence. To look at what is the influence's intention, like what is it trying to accomplish, and to also look at what effect the influence is going to have. So, for example, if someone says something to us and we have this anger come up, and the anger from inside of us is moving us to want to say something real mean back that we know is really gonna hurt that person's feelings. Well, we can assess, okay, this influence, this anger that wants us to be mean to them. What is that? What is that influence? Like, what is its intention? And what is its effect? So in this case, we might be able to look, if we're really honest with ourselves about why we're so angry. And hello, Natalie. If we're really honest with ourselves about why it is that we're so angry at this person, right? We can start to get a sense of the intention of that anger. The anger inside of us maybe is trying to protect us from getting hurt by that person, right? Or trying to protect us from being the kind of person who gets stepped on. And we can be grateful, that anger is trying, that's the intention of our anger. But we can also look at the effect. And we look at the effect, we might discover that if we react with strong anger to the person, we might find that we're not happy with the effect that'll have, and we really think through it. If someone's angry at me and they say something mean to me, and I know this person well, I'm tempted to think, okay, what do I know hurts this person the most? And I'm tempted to go there with my words. And the second I do that, I've really lost trust with that person. Because that person thinks, oh man, if I'm vulnerable with Josh and I tell Josh things that are important to me, he's going to weaponize those things against me. And then my relationship with this person is hurt. And so even though I know that the intention of the anger is to protect me, I can see the effect might not be what I want. Now, after we assess, we can assess whether the influence is elevating or diminishing. Now, in this case, we've seen, by looking at the intention effect, we've seen that the listening to our anger is probably going to diminish our relationship with the person. But we've also seen that the anger is there to protect us from getting stepped on. So in that sense, it's elevating, right? It's an elevating thing to not let ourselves just be stepped on by people, to be true to ourselves and to stand up for ourselves. So in this case, the influence actually has an elevating and a diminishing quality. And when we notice that, we call that parsing. So when we parse an influence, we parse out the elevating parts from the diminishing parts. And this is so important. So many people try to live life in a black and white way. They try to say, oh, this is all good or all bad. And when we do that, we miss out on the richness of life. Like when we just say something like, oh, that book has one bad part of it, or that song has one bad part of it, so it's bad, right? Or we say like, oh, that person did one bad thing, so they're just a bad person. And we fail to see that there's good and bad parts of it. We miss out on the richness of things, the richness of life. Like a cyanide pill? Not sure what you mean by that. Maybe you can explain more. I'm not sure what you mean by a cyanide pill in this case. I don't quite see. I'd really like to know though. So explain that more, please, in the comments. And then if we so we have this. So in our scenario here, we're saying that someone says something to us. You can get good and bad from a cyanide pill. Yeah, I suppose so. I'm actually curious. I don't know a lot about cyanide pills, so I'm actually really curious to hear more. What are the good and bad parts of it? But I think that's true with a lot of like medications. A lot of medications have like something that helps us or elevates us and has to diminish us. And so when we consider whether or not we want to take a medication, we have to consider the ways in which it'll do both and decide whether it's worth it or not. Right? Thank you. And the same thing with like anger, right? So like the anger, when someone says something mean to me and I just want to say something so mean back because of my anger, right? It elevates me because I'll stand up for myself, but it diminishes me because it might hurt that relationship. So if we parse it out, we can use the anger to stand up for ourselves, but choose not to use the anger to hurt the relationship. And so now we're going to get some more ideas here in our chart. So from elevating here, I'm going to put, and hi Hazel Barmer. Hi Hazel. I'm going to put assert and divert. And then under diminishing, we're actually going to take this off 4 ways. We're going to have reject and distract and recast and finally experiment, which is a really interesting one. So with our anger thing here, let's just think of the anger as a diminishing influence because of the way that the anger is going to hurt the relationship. So we can reject the anger. We can just in ourselves say, anger, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. We can distract from the anger, which means that we just focus on something else. So we notice how angry we're feeling, and then we just focus on some other thing instead of that, just distract from it. Like maybe we distract the anger by thinking about times when this person we're angry at has been helpful to us. Or maybe we just go do something else, like go do the laundry or something. Just like or go outside, just do something else. Recast means turning the negative, the diminished influence into an elevated influence. So it might be some way we can take the anger and like maybe we like go, wait, why am I so angry? And we start learning about ourselves and we start learning about how like when we start learning about how do I say this? So learning about like the roots of our anger, like the experience we've had in the past that caused us to feel so angry. And then we process those feelings and process that trauma. And then the fact that we felt the anger elevated us. Experiment is interesting. It's where you just run with the anger and see what happens. So you just go, you know what, I feel angry right now. I'm just gonna be angry. I'm just gonna say mean things to this person and see what happens. And then you learn from that experience, which helps you grow, right? Like you see what happens and say it does diminish the relationship, and you're just like, and you see it diminish the relationship, and you go, wow, responding anger that way diminishes my relationships. Now I really own that principle. Or maybe you experiment with it and discover that it helps in some way that surprised you, right? And you're like, huh, okay, now I know that. And then maybe experimenting helps you discover that it actually belongs over here. Hi, Dino357YT. It's good to have you here. And then when we when we discover, let's look at our anger, the parts of anger that are elevating, right? Because anger helps us stand up for ourselves. Anger helps us assert our boundaries. Anger helps us oppose things that are like harmful, right? Anger helps us protect people. And so when we have this anger and we assert it, we might assert it in ways that do not diminish the relationship, but do help us stand up for ourselves. So let's think about some examples of this. So I might be like, okay, this person is saying mean things to me, and I feel anger, and I'm so glad I have anger because anger is going to help me stand up for myself. But I don't want to diminish relationship. I want to be in the moral high ground. So my anger leads me to say to the person, I am not okay with you treating me the way you are right now. Please do not do that. I am okay with figuring this out between us. Are you ready to talk this through and figure it out with me? Is this a good time for you? Now, interestingly, though, we also have this divert principle. And the divert principle is where something is elevating, but it's just not good for us right now. Just divert it. So like in our situation right now, we might be like, yeah, it would be really elevating to stand up for ourselves in this situation, but now is just not a good time. So we just be like, I'm going to stand up for myself later. And right now I'm just going to get out of here. Just leave. And that's great. Now we also have one more principle, which is resonance, which is a really beautiful principle. I spelled resonance wrong. Resonance. Sneak that N in there. You can do it, N. You made it. Okay. So when we have resonance, what we're talking about here is that as we do all these things to respond to things, our resonance starts going up. Like the amount of light in our bodies and our cells, our ability to just be good people goes up. And as that resonance goes up, it gets easier to do all these things. Like the more our resonance goes up, the more it's easy to assess and parse and do all this stuff. So resonance is really powerful. As we do these things, it increases resonance. As we increase in resonance, we do these things more easily. Resonance is awesome. It's really cool. Another part of resonance is that resonance attracts to us the people that are like us. So if we have low resonance and we're walking around just being balls of anger all the time, we're going to attract people who are like that are going to feel attracted to us. But if we've practiced responding to our impulses in a wise way and we've raised our resonance so that we're more peaceful people and we're more loving people, then we're going to attract more peaceful and loving people to us. So if in your life or in my life, if we find that certain kinds of people keep showing up for us, I keep the kind of, people like angry people keep showing up in my life, or dramatic people keep showing up in my life. Well, maybe it's because we have that quality inside ourselves and we're attracting those people. Not always the case, but that might be the case. And so it might be important to find that quality inside ourselves and heal it so that we don't attract those kind of people anymore. And if anyone has any questions about any of this as we talk, or if anyone wants to throw out an example we could apply this to, please do so in the chat whenever you desire. I'm going to go through this example again with like example. I'm going to go through this chart again with other examples of the kinds of influences we might come up inside of us. Let's talk about sadness. So let's say that like intense sadness comes into us. And we're like, well, what's the intention and effect of this sadness? Well, we might think, what is this sadness trying to do? And maybe the sadness is trying to show us that we're feeling a sense of loss. The sadness might be showing up to help us see, oh, there's loss happening in your life right now, and it's time to like look at that carefully, right? So like, oh, the sadness is trying to help me. What's the effect of the sadness? We have to look at it. We have to think, okay, if I wallow in this sadness, the effect is going to be depression. I'm not going to get anything done. But if I process the sadness, then the effect could be different, right? And so we can parse it out to different effects. And so we might assert the sadness. We might assert the sadness by saying, sadness, thank you for helping me see I have loss right now. I'm going to listen to you and find where I'm feeling loss in my life, and either accept that loss or do what I can to prevent the loss. Like prevent that thing from getting lost. Maybe I can do something about that. Diverting the sadness might just mean I don't have the energy right now to deal with the sadness, so I'm going to put it on a shelf and come back to it later. We can decide if you might experiment with the sadness. Just try being sad and see how it affects you, right? You might recast the sadness. One example of recast sadness is I can think of a time when someone else was really, really, really sad, and this person came to me feeling extremely sad, and I didn't want to feel sad with them. I was like, ooh, I don't want to feel sad right now. Sad sounds, I don't want to feel that. But they were feeling sad and they needed me. And so I held them and I just chose to be sad with them. And as we were sad together, our sadness turned into love. I could distract from the sadness, right? Just by doing something else for now. Like maybe I just go like watch a funny TV show and, or I could reject the sadness. Sometimes our sadness we feel isn't even ours, right? So I might be feeling sad because I was around someone sad earlier that day and their sadness stuck to me, but that sadness doesn't actually help me at all. So I might say, sadness, you're not mine. Go away, and reject it. Another influence you might have is let's say that we're going along or walking on, going through life, and we see someone who's much more successful than we are, right? Like, and we feel jealous or envious of that person. Well, we can assess that. What's the attention effect? What intention does the jealousy or envy have? What is it trying to do? Maybe it's that feeling is trying to motivate us to claim the things they have. Or maybe it's trying to cover up for a different feeling. Maybe we have a strong feeling of lack, like we feel like we're not enough. And the envy or the jealousy is sort of like a kind of anger that shows up. Like really, it's a form of anger. It's like, I'm mad they have what I don't have, right? And so it could be that anger is trying to show up. That anger is trying to show up to protect us from feeling like we're not enough, right? Like you see someone who looks really attractive, but you don't feel like you're very attractive, or you see someone with lots of money, but you feel like you don't have a lot of money. Or you see someone who's super popular, but you don't feel like you're popular. You see that person, and you instantly have these feelings of like, I'm not as good as them. I'm pathetic. And your body shows up and says, no, you don't need to be pathetic. Feel angry about it instead. And that's the envy or the jealousy. So it's trying to protect you from the other thing. And that's nice. Like you can be grateful for that. But what's the effect? Well, focusing on the envy or the jealousy is only gonna make us not like that person and hurt that relationship. And it's going to just continue to lead us feeling like we're not enough. We're not going to actually feel better about ourselves because of it. So the effect isn't great, right? So in that sense, it's a diminishing influence. And so we can respond to things. We can just say to the jealousy, I reject you, jealousy. Problem is with feelings, it doesn't always work very well. A lot of times, if you just go away, feelings, sometimes they come back stronger, right? We could distract from it. We could just focus on something else instead of that person. Um, we could recast the jealousy. We could say to ourselves, oh, I feel jealous because I feel like I'm not enough. Why do I feel like I'm not enough? And turn that experience into examining what's going on. Could experiment with it. We could just try being jealous and see what happens. Just run with those feelings and then afterwards evaluate, okay, where did those feelings take me? Now, the aspect of jealousy that's saying to us, oh, you don't feel like you're enough, we could divert from that. We could be like, I don't want to think about that right now. I'm going to put that shelf, come back to it later. Or we could assert it, right? We could say, the message here is that I don't feel like I'm enough. I'm going to assert that message by healing that. I'm going to find out why I don't think I'm enough and do something about it. And so we have all these different ways to respond to things. And that, I think, is a pretty good summary of how these different principles of discernment function together to help us to do something with these impulses inside us all day long. Different feelings and thoughts and temptations are coming up inside us, and it's important to decide what we're going to do with them. Another impulse in Comp is the impulse to love, right? So or the impulse to have compassion. Like you see someone going along and they drop something, and they drop their they drop whatever they're carrying, and you have this feeling that says, oh, I should help them pick that up, right? Well, what's the intention of that feeling? It's love. It wants to help. What's the effect? Well, that person will be helped. This is a good feeling. So we can go over here and we either assert the feeling, we either just go and help them pick their stuff up, or we might divert it. Maybe we notice that someone else is helping them and we're late, and it's really important for us to be on time wherever we're going. So we're just going to let the other person help them and be okay with that, right? So we can assert or divert those kind of impulses that come up, which are helpful. But on the other hand, in the moment when we think, hey, I want to help them, fear might come up. And the fear might say, no, don't help them. We might think, whoa, why is this fear saying this to us? And we analyze the feelings. The fear might be saying, if you help them, you'll be late, which could be, helpful. Or might be saying, if you help them, you'll stand out in a way that'll make you feel awkward. Right? Like why? We can ask ourselves, we can assess the feeling. Why is it that we feel afraid to help? And then once we know why we feel that way, we can parse out the pieces of that fear into the elevating, diminishing parts and then respond to it appropriately. Maybe in the end, we discover that the reason why we're afraid to stop and help is because in the past when we've helped people, we've gotten taken advantage of. And so we can be like, oh, well, this fear is trying to protect me, right? So we can see that there's an elevated influence, but we also have a diminished influence because if we're always go through our lives being afraid to help people because they might take advantage of us, well, that's not going to help us because not everyone's going to do that, right? So maybe we can do both at the same time. Maybe we can assert some boundaries that keep us from being taken advantage of, while also recasting that fear, right? Like turn that fear, have that fear of being taken advantage of, recast it just into setting boundaries, and then once you set the boundary, and then like process those feelings, like go back to those, set some boundaries, learn from that, but also go back and like maybe journal about like the experiences we've had where we felt taken advantage of, and really process those feelings and take care of that. Like write out all the times that we felt taken advantage of because we helped people, and then rip up that paper and let it go. Be like, I'm moving on. I don't need to be stuck in this anymore. This was the past. It's not now. So these are all examples of ways that we can use these 10 principles of discernment to respond to the influences inside us. And as we respond to those influences in wise, well thought out ways, we will resonate more highly. Like our bodies will change, our attitudes will change. We'll become more elevated people, and we'll become the kind of people we want to be around. Like, think of the people who, when you're around those people, you just feel like your best. They help you feel like your best self. As we learn to respond to our impulses with these kinds of ways, you and I will gradually become that person who makes other people feel amazing about themselves. That person other people want to be around. And I think that's all for today. Good luck in your discernments. Have a happy discernment season. Here at 13 Seasons, we divide the year into 13 parts and of 13 4-week segments, right? And during each of those 13 periods of the year, we focus on one of these different principles. So right now we're in the middle of the discernment season, focusing on these principles. And in a couple weeks, we'll move to the identity season, where we can focus on like what it means to know yourself and really get to know yourself and be your own friend. And so we'll do another live stream then, in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And until then, enjoy your best self, one season at a time. Goodbye, everyone.